Arsenal would initially look to play out short from the keeper, with the centre-back split into the width of the box, whilst the full-backs advance higher and wider, with the pivots dropping deeper to provide options. Chelsea were willing to press high throughout the match, with the pressing intensity increasing as the game progressed. They ended with a passes per defensive action of over 8. They looked to push Abraham high, who would often be able to cover both pivots, although Mount or Kovacic could also push higher in the press when necessary. Crucially, the wingers would be drawn higher up to press the centre-backs who had moved wide, which subsequently left Arsenal's full-backs in more space, and Leno could look to pick them out with the chip pass. In open play, Arsenal used slightly different mechanisms than usual. Elneny tended to drop into the backline to begin the play, and with this makeshift back three, Arsenal's fullbacks could advance high earlier than usual, as shown in the average positioning. A disadvantage, however, was that with Smith Rowe remaining fairly high and not dropping into the midfield, Xhaka could often find himself isolated in this region, and naturally this made central progression much more difficult. As a result, Arsenal only used the centre of the pitch 27% of the time for their attacks. But this also came with its advantages, mainly that both wingers, Werner in particular, could be drawn higher to the wider centre-backs when pressing, naturally leaving them outnumbered in the wide regions, and finding the full-backs was a key element for Arsenal. And generally, the full-backs were willing to take on the winger if they had the advantage, as the winger was recovering from pressing more central, and they would advance high up the pitch to look for potential crossing opportunities. Down the left-hand side, when Tierney was advanced, this could provide the opportunity to either push into the half space to draw James narrow and create more crossing room for Tierney. Alternatively, Martinelli could move into the box to add numbers waiting for the cross, and Emil Smith-Rowe would be willing to drift wider to try and provide support for Tierney or Saka on the right in scenarios like this. In winning the first penalty, we see elements of this. The ball breaks down from the corner, but we see Werner is an adept at tracking back, similarly to Pulisic in this match at least, freeing space for Tierney to make the run off the shoulder. Martinelli is in a central region initially, discouraging James from going out wide to close Tierney down, so Tierney can drift into the box and then win the penalty. Now, what did Chelsea look to do with their possession? Chelsea also generally looked to build up short, and with Arsenal pressing less, they would often come through the first phase of play unchallenged. Arsenal did look to confront them as they entered the midfield third, and Lacazette and Smith-Rowe worked in conjunction with one pressing a centre-back and the other looking to provide cover for the pass into Kante depending on the ball side. When Smith-Rowe in particular was pushing higher, Chelsea were happy to temporarily shift to a double pivot, with Mount or Kovacic dropping deeper. So if Xhaka or Elneny were drawn higher up on the press, Chelsea could then look to find the man moving between the lines to look for the cross. Similarly to Arsenal, Chelsea also looked to shift to a back three in the build-up, often with Mendy pushing up to allow the centre-backs to move wider. This would also lead to the Arsenal wide men pressing narrow, and Martinelli in particular tended to move narrow. This would then free up James to move higher up the pitch and receive the ball, and Pulisic could initially remain wider to cause a 2 versus 1 against Tierney higher up, to get into good crossing positions. This general pattern was exacerbated when Hudson-Odoi was brought on, as he was much more aggressive in taking on Tierney 1 versus 1 and looking to get his cross in. He ended with the third most crosses for the side, despite only being on the pitch for half the game. In fact, from these wide regions, he was able to get the cross in for Abraham's goal. On the left-hand side, the pattern was slightly different, with Chilwell looking to advance higher up the pitch even earlier. This would allow Werner to move infield to the centre-forward positions where he is more comfortable. Chilwell could then receive the switch across the pitch with the Arsenal forward caught high, leading to several good crossing positions.